I spent about a year trying to finish my gaming backlog, and I don't mean casual look at the list every once in a while and saying, yeah, I should probably play these one day or something. No, I treated it like an actual mission. I had a main backlog with around 170 games, mostly games from starting from 2021 until now. And on top of that, I had a separate retro backlog. I was trying to play more casual on the side, you know? So basically, I had one backlog that was my main objective, which is the 170 games one, and another backlog waiting in the shadows like a secret boss. And the crazy part is, I almost did it. I got my main backlog down to around 15 games left. And out of those 15 games left, some of them I probably will not even finish after trying them, or I might just remove them completely. So on paper, I was close, like really close. But instead of feeling free, I realized something that honestly changed how I looked at gaming. The backlog was never really the problem. The way I was looking at it was the problem. Because at some point, I was not treating my backlog like a list of games I was excited to play. I was treating it like a homework. And that is when gaming started to feel less like my favorite hobby and more like an assignment I gave myself. Which I did, to be fair. So this video is not me saying you cannot finish your backlog. Because honestly you can. I came super close. It's not impossible. But actually, trying to do it for a year, I don't think that's the healthiest way to look at gaming. Alright? At least not for me. So let me explain what happened exactly. Like I said, I had two backlogs. The first one was my main one. That was the big one, around 170 games. From 2021 till now. This was the list I was actually trying to complete. Then I had the retro backlog, which was more like casual. Older games, classics, games I missed, games I want to experience someday. That one was not the main mission, but it was still there. I will bring it up when I feel like I want to change it up and play some retro games. That's pretty much it. And already, that should have been the first warning sign, to be honest. Because when your backlog has a backlog, maybe you're in too deep in this one, man. But at the time, I did not see it that way. I looked at the main backlog and thought, okay, I can do this. I can finish this. So I started treating it like a challenge. I researched the best ways to finish a gaming backlog. I took the advice seriously. And honestly, a lot of the advice does work. One of the biggest ones was, stop playing games you do not like. This is really, really crucial. This is important. You cannot feel guilty. Since it actually filters out your backlog, but to do that, you cannot feel guilty, right? And that sounds obvious, I know, but gamers are really terrible at this. You know that. We will play a game for like 10 hours or something, not enjoy the most of it, and still say, yeah, maybe, just maybe, it will get better. Or, I already bought it, so I have to finish it anyways. Or the most dangerous one, in my opinion, I started it, so now I owe it a completion. Hell no, man. You do not owe any game. Remember, alright? Like, damn, man, you do not owe any game. Remember that. If you're not enjoying it, you're allowed to stop. Period. That's it. Another piece of advice was, stop buying games just because they're on sale, you know? And this one hurts because sales are dangerous. A game goes from $60 or $70 to like 10, 20, and like really, really good discount offer. And suddenly you feel like you're making a smart decision. Which of course you are. But if you buy a game because it's actually cheap and then sits in your library for 3 years, did you really save money? What I mean by that, sometimes a sale does not save you money. Sometimes it just sells you guilt at a discount. Because that is what a lot of backlog games become. They're not games anymore. They're like little reminders saying, you still haven't played me, man. Like, what are you doing? And each game just feels like that. Another thing I started doing was tracking everything. I had my own list. I used a website called Backlog. You should absolutely use that, by the way. It's actually like genuinely one of the best websites I used. I used also How Long to Beat, which is a popular website for games lengths. I started looking at the game lengths, organizing what I had, think about what I could realistically finish, and try to be smart about it, what I played next. And again, this worked. I'm not going to pretend it didn't. Having a list helped. Knowing how long games were helped. Dropping games I did not care about. That was crucial. That was just so important. Not buying random games just because they were on sale. Playing shorter games between longer ones helped. Underrated, by the way. Changing genres, absolutely. If you don't, just keep switching genres so you don't feel like, bored. Taking breaks, of course. That's really important. All of that advice is helpful. And for a while, I felt like I was winning. The number kept going down, the list was getting smaller. Games were being completed and removed, of course. The mission was actually working. And also there's genuinely, it was really satisfying, can't lie. Seeing the backlog shrink feels so good, bro. It feels like actual progress I was doing. It's like you finally taking control of your library instead of just, letting the games pile up forever. But then, something started to happen to me this year. Slowed down, took a whole break for about a month. And then I also said to myself, okay, I'll take a break, come back and finish the rest. It will not take that long anyways. Surely the games will not gonna pile up or something. Yes, I added some extra games along the way throughout this year, of course. Or the games that came out this specific month. I mean, come on, of course I did. Because apparently I cannot just let the mission be normal or something, no. But still, I was really close. And that is when the realization hit me. This will never end. Even if I finish this backlog, another one will appear. New games will release. Old games will interest me. Sales will happen, of course. Recommendations will show up. my taste will change. A game I ignored like 2 years ago might suddenly look interesting. A retro game I never cared about, just somehow decide, you know what, let me try it out. A multiplayer game might pull me back in for no reason. A massive RPG might take over my life for a month. Even though I'm not really a huge RPG fan, still you never know. Especially if you love RPGs, well, actually you're kind of cooked, not gonna lie. Just kidding. Kinda. And then there are live service games. I mean, how do you even finish something like that? Come on, man. How do you finish Fortnite, for example? We all know that. Fortnite is Fortnite. How do you finish like a multiplayer games that just keeps updating, like your CODs or your NBAs or your FIFAs? You don't really finish it. You play it when you're in the mood, you leave, you come back. Sometimes you play with your friends, mess around, have fun. I mean, you enjoy it for what it is, but for your whole mindset is based, like if your whole mindset is based on finishing everything, those games break the system. And that is when I realized the problem. I was trying to beat my hobby. I was treating gaming like a final boss. Like if I just completed enough games, reached the end of the list, and cleared everything, then I would finally be free. But hobbies are not supposed to work like that. Like, I just started to hate it, low-key. Gaming is one of my favorite things of all time. It's the whole reason I made this channel. It's something I genuinely care about. But when I turned every game into a task, the fun started fading. Even good games started to feel like steps in a checklist. Instead of thinking, oh, I can't wait to play this, I actually feel like I'm excited to play it, looking forward to it. No, I started thinking, alright, let me check how long this will take. How many missions or how quickly can I finish it, and what can I remove after this or what to play after. And at that point, you're not playing games anymore. You're just processing them. You're treating them like a homework. You finish one game just so you can move on to the next one, and you finish the next and the next and so on. And eventually, even completing a game does not feel special anymore. It just feels like crossing something off a list. And honestly, even after I finish it, I just don't get this that rush, the dopamine hit I always get. Feels just kind of empty. And yeah, I generally felt like that. It was kind of depressing, can't lie. And that is the part that made me stop and think. Because I had done the right things, the advice I took, I stopped buying games on sale, taking breaks, organized the list, tried to avoid burnout, and still, I burned out. Not because the advice was bad, the advice of course helped, but because the deeper problem was not in the method. It was the mindset. I was still looking at the backlog as something that had to be defeated. And that's when my perspective changed. The backlog is not one fixed thing. It just depends on how you look at it. Yes, that's how genuinely just discovered. It's that simple. It's not one fixed thing. It just depends on how you look at it. It's a matter of perspective. For one person, for example, a backlog is a mission. List of games they want to finish. And that can be true. That is true. But I did at first. For another person, it is a library. A collection of games they can choose from whenever they are in the mood. That is also true. For someone else, could be like a collection. Games that you bought on sale, games they like owning. Maybe games they want to play or may not ever play. They don't care, they just want to own it. Hey, that also can be actually true. Genuinely. The backlog is not automatically a problem in itself. It becomes a problem when the meaning you give it starts hurting your enjoyment. If you decide your backlog is something to finish, then yes, you can finish it. Or at least come close. I'm proof of that. I had around 170 games and I got the main list down to around 15. So when people say finishing a backlog is impossible, I do not agree. It is absolutely possible. But the real question is, what does it cost you? Because for me, the cost was that gaming started feeling less special. I just started to feel nothing. I don't get the rush anymore. I genuinely just made me sad. I was playing to finish, not always to enjoy. I was rushing through experiences just to say they were done. And this is where I think a lot of games get trapped. We buy games because we're excited. Then we don't play them immediately. Then the list gets bigger. Then you start to feel guilty. Then we try to fix the guilt by completing everything. But if you're not careful, the solution becomes another problem. Because now the thing that was supposed to be fun becomes another responsibility. We already have enough responsibilities in our lives. Games should not feel like homework after a long day of actual responsibilities. That's just facts. And this does not only apply to gaming. It applies to movies, TV shows, anime, books, any sort of entertainment, doesn't matter. The more entertainment we have access to, the easier it is to turn enjoyment into a checklist. It's really simple. There's always another show, another movie, another must-play game, another you have to watch this, bro. Another, how have you not played that one, bro? And after a while, you start choosing what you actually want. You start chasing completion, but completion is a weird goal when the list can keep going forever. That is why I think the healthier way to look at a backlog is as a library. I genuinely think that. Not homework. A library does not mean you must read every book in the building before you're allowed to enjoy your life. A library means you have options. You walk in, you choose what fits your mood, your time, your energy, or your interest. And that is how I want to treat my backlog right now. Not as some sort of giant monster I need to kill or a debt I need to repay, but as a library of games I can play throughout time. Some games I'll keep for later, some games I might never touch. And that is okay. Nothing wrong with that. The goal should be to choose better, to play what actually interests you, to give games enough time to breathe, to actually process what you're playing instead of rushing through it like an assignment. Because if you finish a game but barely remember it, did you really experience it? Or did you just remove it from a list? Think about that. That is why after this whole experience, my advice is simple. Look at your backlog and decide what actually means to you. If you enjoy treating it like a mission and it does not burn you out, then do it. Absolutely, go ahead. You probably feel amazing. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing is impossible. You can make progress. You can finish a lot of games. And you can come close and actually finish it, unlike me. But if your backlog starts making you hate gaming, then maybe the backlog is not the enemy. Maybe the mission in itself is. Maybe the problem is not that you have too many games. The problem is that you have turned every game into an obligation. And if that is the case, then change the perspective. Simple. Remove games that you do not care about. Stop buying games you only because they're cheap. Stop forcing yourself through something just because you started it. Stop treating every game like a box that needs to be checked. Use the backlog as a way to decide what to play next when you're actually in the mood for something. Not as a punishment, not as a job, not as a homework. Because games are not homework. And your favorite hobby should not become something you dread. Alright? That's how I felt. It was just horrible. It did not feel great at all. For me, I came close to finishing the backlog, right? And that taught me that it can be done. But it also told me that I do not want the gaming to feel like that forever. So I'm not saying my answer has to be your answer. This is just my experience. This is what I discovered after spending a year trying to clear a list of around 170 games. Take it however you want, no problem. If finishing your backlog makes you happy, absolutely go for it, man. If keeping it as a library makes you happier though, do that. If you want to drop half of it and start fresh, maybe that is what you actually need. But whatever you choose, remember, make sure you're still enjoying the games, not just completing them. Because after trying to defeat my backlog, burning out, taking a break, coming back, and realizing the list will never truly stop growing, I finally accepted the backlog reality. I'll see you on the next one. Lost Prince out.